So on today's Academy lesson, we have the opposite of the move that we covered in the previous lesson. In the previous lesson, we talked about the slip cut and a couple applications of that. On today's lesson, we're going to talk about the move known as the backslip. So the backslip is the exact opposite of the slip cut, and we're going to go into the technique as well as different applications of the move that you could do in your own performance. So for the uninitiated, the backslip is a very, very simple move. All you're doing is you're putting pressure with the fingertips of the left hand while holding a deck in mechanics grip. So when your right hand comes in biddle grip, whereas before your thumb was putting the pressure, now your fingertips are putting the pressure. So now when you slide the deck towards the left side, because of the pressure of your fingertips, there's going to be one card that's going to stay on the left-handed half. Now, one of the issues that I've had with this particular move, especially when teaching it to other people, is this sharp sort of action. You want to make it as natural of an action as can be, and you want to let gravity almost do most of the work for you. You don't want this jarring slip action that I've seen too many people do. So that is the actual move of the slip cut. Now, there are a couple different ways you could incorporate this into different aspects, but at its base, you're just going to lift up almost like a book. You're putting your fingertips on the right side over here. You're putting some pressure so that when your hand slides off, that card coalesces with the left-handed packet and you could replace the deck. So the first way is with a false cut. So this is the first application of using this move. Let's assume the top card is the 5 of clubs and we want to keep it there. So what we do for this is we just accomplish the actions of the slip cut as we give the deck a cut. So in this case, we're going to lift up approximately half the deck. We're going to put pressure with our fingertips and execute the slip cut as we bring this half in the right hand underneath, executing the end of what would be a single undercut. So one more time, we're just going to grab about half the cards. We're going to put pressure with our fingers down here, and we're going to use that to keep that card directly on top of the deck. So leaving it face up, you see that it's a very disarming action because that card is seemingly cut with the rest of the deck. However, that card stays directly on top of the deck. So you see from this angle it looks good. From this angle it also looks good. From the front it also happens to look phenomenal, and you keep the card directly on top of the deck. So over here, assuming that the top card is the 5 of clubs, you notice that doing the actions of the slip cut to the table keeps the exact same action as before. So in this case, we're going to do the slip cut, holding back with our fingertips. However, instead of putting this packet underneath, we're putting it on the table and bringing up this packet, keeping the 5 of clubs on top. Of course, this cuts the deck underneath the 5, but it keeps the 5 precisely on top where we want it to be. So a very interesting way of using this move is as a force. So this is going to tie into the later aspect of the actual move itself that we're going to cover later in this video. But for now, at its base, we have the 5 of clubs on top. We could actually cut packets to the table, doing simultaneous slip cuts here, back slips, and have the spectator call stop anytime they want. You notice that it doesn't matter where they call stop because it's always going to be the 5 of clubs. So if we use this as a force, in this case of the ace of clubs, we notice that the spectator could call stop anytime they want, and yet it's always going to be the ace of clubs. This also works tremendously as a control because imagine if we've cut, for example, this card over here, the king of clubs, in doing the slip cut and dropping that half on the table, the perception is that this is the card when really we've switched it out because of the slip cut. So now you could very cleanly recover the cut and you have a control and a force all in one seamless action. So for those of you guys that might not necessarily be clear on the actual mechanics of the move, the 3 of clubs on top, we're executing the slip cuts. So here we're putting pressure and dropping the halves to the table. So in this case, we're just cutting small portions of the deck, doing a slip cut. And now in that action, the spectator could call stop anywhere they want. In this case, it's the 3 of clubs. And now we could even do this false cut where this is perceived to be the card, drop the rest of the cards on top, and we have controlled and forced the 3 of clubs. Another application of this move is as a control. So in this case, let's say we have the 9 of hearts. That's the card that's picked. In this case, we could have that card placed somewhere in the middle of this half, place that in the middle of that half, and in that action, the card is on top. You might recognize this as a traditional ambitious card sort of control. However, we're using it with the backslip. And the way that looks like is like this. So let's say we have the 9 of hearts over here. In turning this card face down, our fingertips are in the exact position they need to be. So we backslip this card. As we rotate this upper half forward, you see what that does is that that's going to cover the action of the backslip as we do a fan. Now we're going to insert this card directly into the fan, much like the traditional sort of ambitious card style control. Put that in the middle of this half, and now that card is controlled directly to the top. So let me leave that card face up for explanation's sake. So this card, of course, would be face down. We execute the backslip. This top card, which is an X card, goes into the middle of this half over here, which could be fanned, or if you want, it could even just be inserted just like this into the fan. We're going to riffle down the left edge, insert this inside of this fan, and now we've effectively controlled the 9 of hearts to the top. So the way that move looks like in speed is like this. We have the Queen of Spades, and that card is lost somewhere in the middle of the deck, lost in the middle of that half. Lost forevermore, of course, we know better because we know that card's controlled right to the top of the deck. And the last application of this move is the actual force. Now, traditionally, when we've seen this move done as a riffle force, it's done in this sort of way where we're forcing the top card, in this case is the 5 of diamonds. Spectator calls stop anywhere they want. Let's say they call stop over here. We say, oh, wait, we saw the 7 of spades. So why don't you remember this card over here, the 5 of diamonds. I've never liked this way of doing a force because I feel like it draws way too much attention on itself. So this way is the way that I've enjoyed doing it, at least with my performance style. And it's you have the spectator call stop anywhere they want right there. We happen to cut exactly where they happen to call stop, and that becomes the force card. So that's the way that I prefer to do it in the context of an actual cut as opposed to within this sort of weird, oh, you've seen this card, so remember this card. I've never liked it that way. So the mechanics of this are as follows. The spectator calls stop anywhere they want. Let's say they call stop over here. We're going to be in the perfect position here with our fingertips to press and allow this card to get backslipped so that when we cut the cards, that card remains on top of the deck. So if we do this with the card face up, you see that that card remains face up on top of the deck the entire way, regardless of the actual cut. So one more time, spectator calls stop. That card gets cut still to the top of the deck, where we could show the spectator the card and do whatever sort of cut we want, retaining it on top or doing whatever the trick entails. But we've effectively forced the card on the spectator. So those are a bunch of different applications for this backslip, from a couple different ways to use it as a control, a couple of different ways to use it as a force, and a couple different ways to actually use the move to still maintain control over the top card of the deck. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope you guys apply that to your own Magic. Thank you guys for being part of the Academy, and I hope to see you on the next lesson.